Well, it's that time of the week again. Stephanie Dobson is with us. Stephanie is a lawyer and mediator here in Lloydminster at Henke Divorce Law and Mediation. And it's time for another episode of Healthy, Thriving Family After Divorce. So, Stephanie, we've kind of been talking about preparing for a divorce and separation. And this week, one of the things we're going to focus on is disclosure. So let's just start right at that. Stephanie, what do you mean by the term disclosure?
So disclosure is really just the process of providing information and documents to your lawyer or mediator, so to your divorce professional. So when you ask sort of what kind of documents would they be, they'd be in four categories. So income, expenses, assets, and debts. So in a separation, one of the most important things in order to arrive at resolution is to be fully informed. So how do you get fully informed? You have to exchange those documents. So some people generally know kind of what's in each other's bank accounts and kind of how much each person has earned. But in order to actually get to that resolution, you actually physically have to exchange those documents. And that's what's called the disclosure process.
So what types of information, Stephanie, and documents can actually be exchanged as they go through the process?
Well, let's think of this a bit like layers of an onion. So we'll talk about the first layer as what I would call the standard disclosure. So they're what I would also call basic documents. So we've got things like on the income side, you've got some income tax returns, notices of assessment, maybe some pay stubs, or you might, at this time of year, we're exchanging T4s because maybe income tax returns aren't done. There's also things like bank account statements, investment statements, maybe even pension statements. And those you might just have a statement that you get annually. You might end up having to send away to get your statement. And on the debt side, there's things like credit cards, lines of credit, mortgages, or car loans, that sort of thing. On the business side, you might have things like financial statements. Those are things that your accountant will naturally produce for you every year, or even appraisals of things like your home or your vehicle. So then we get to the next layer. Now, that's when we really have to dig deeper. So it really is going to depend on your situation as to whether we have to go to this next layer. It's things that people would produce for you, like business valuations, formal appraisals, or even more forensic information. So it just really depends on your situation as to how much disclosure is required, but let's think of it again like an onion and starting to unlayer that thing.
So when should people start getting all this information together, Stephanie?
Well, some of it is going to depend on how much financial management you already have in your family. So you might be the one that always keeps the statements and collects them. So it's going to be very easy for you. And some people really might be very uninformed. And so it can be harder. And so it's more time consuming. So the less you know, the earlier you should start gathering. And sometimes once a separation happens, people can sometimes get a little bit more secretive and start hiding things or hiding documents. And so if you think the separation is looming and you wonder if you'll even have access to those documents, you may want to start gathering them early.
And how do you arrange to get them to the divorce professional?
Well, of course, there's lots of ways. The easiest one and the most old school one, we'll call it, is physically delivering paper to your lawyer or mediator's office. Okay, now that's obviously really easy. Now, most law offices will charge you for photocopying or scanning those documents. Even if you say, don't worry, you can keep them, they may have to get them scanned into their system. So in our office, we always prefer to receive things electronically, whether it's by email or even we use a client portal through our document management software. Really easy. People can even scan in directly through an app on their phone that's free that allows them to scan and send in to us. And so for that, we don't charge clients when we receive things electronically. And it sort of also encourages people to send things so that it's easier on our end to manage the documents.
All right, Stephanie. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again. And we'll be back to chat with you next week.
Great. Thanks, Stacey.